A new computer virus may change what we put on computers. President Barack Obama has picked a Supreme Court justice nominee, and Syria desperately needs humanitarian aid. I'm Anthony Anderson.
And I'm Cassandra Kennedy. These are tonight's lead stories.
Live on Crete Channel 21, this is DCTV News.
An unusual strain of ransomware is leading a new generation of malicious software used by hackers. A report by the security research group at Cisco Systems says the software worms its way through networks without requiring someone to click a link to open an infected attachment. This type of attack hit the MedStar Health Hospital chain last month, where hackers target backup files and records, encrypting them to make them unreadable. To regain access, users often pay a ransom in the difficult-to-trace digital currency known as Bitcoin.
President Barack Obama has nominated Chief Judge Merrick Garland to the Supreme Court. Now 15 former presidents of the American Bar Association are joining the push to urge Republicans to consider his nominee. In a letter to Senate leaders, the 15 argue that the GOP blockade is using politics to unjustly block effective operation of the judiciary. The group calls Judge Garland as one of the most outstanding judges in the country.
Secretary of State John Kerry plans on redoubling nuclear disarmament efforts by May. Kerry is joined by foreign ministers from the 7 industrialized countries in an effort to complete an anti-terrorism action plan in time for May summit. They met today in an atomic bomb Japanese city of Hiroshima, wrestling with some of the intraceable global problems facing their nations.
200,000 people in Syria are starving, and food aid does not have the resources needed to help. The World Food Program says it's used airdrops as a last resort to get much-needed aid to the Syrian city of Deir el-Zur. The aid includes beans, chickpeas, and rice and is enough to feed only 2,500 people for 1 month. The group says more airdrops are planned to help the city's 197,500 people who desperately need humanitarian assistance.
The Justice Department has announced a $5 billion settlement with Goldman Sachs for the issues leading up to the 2008 financial crisis. The deal resolves state and federal probes into the sale of shoddy mortgages before the housing bubble and economic meltdown. It requires the bank to pay a $2.84 billion in civil penalties and an additional $1.8 billion in relief to underwater homeowners and distressed borrowers, along with $875 million in other claims.
Brian, how do you feel about people touching your hair?
Kind of like that feels. That's a weird question to ask, though. You know, but the weather's going to be really nice.
Yeah, about the weather. It's a little windy.
What
I was trying to do is I was trying to segue into how windy it's been and how it always feels like someone's touching your head because of the wind. Get what I'm saying there?
It must be pretty windy in here. We'll have the rest of the DCT forecast once we come back. Well, we had a fairly nice day again for some spring weather. Not too much of the spring rainy weather we've been seeing. It's been fairly warm. As you can see, it's been a fair day. We had some wind today, but that's what kept the temperature down in the mid-50s. But as we move on through the week, it looks like it's going to be warmed up a little bit. So let's take a look at what went on right today, currently. There we go. So this is what we kind of had going on. Just mainly clouds and the stationary front moving over slowly. States south of us had some rain, and the western plains had some precipitation, but as far as we were going, we just had a little bit of wind. Kept a little cool in the morning, but fairly nice now. But if we move into tomorrow, that's what I said. As you can see, nothing really going on. We have a warm front moving over, so temperatures will be rising as we move throughout the week. So let's look at that right now. Boom, tomorrow, still a little bit cool, but we're going to rise into the high 60s, and throughout the week, we'll be moving into the high 70s. Then back on Friday, we'll have some more wind again. Then as we head into the weekend, we'll have a little bit of some rain, potentially. Not likely though, but it'll be warm rain for you. So we can do that while Anthony pets me. And
it's the wind,
it'll be the
it's
high
not me
70s.
petting you. God. It's the wind.
That's just creepy. Why would you do that?
You did it to me before the break.
I don't recall that.
A York woman will not plead guilty to having sex with a minor. Jamie Bishop, a worker for York Facility for Troubled Children, is accused of sexual assault with a 15-year-old at the center. Court documents say Bishop had sex with him several times in his room and on the grounds of the facility. She just gave birth to a son in which authorities say DNA tests prove that the boy's paternity. However, Smith says her accuser has a history of manipulating situations for his benefit.
Hiding under clothes seems like a logical thing once you think you've been caught in the act of robbery, right? Well, Lincoln authorities say a burglary suspect has been found under a pile of clothes after a woman called 911. A neighbor called to say he saw a man inside her apartment. Officers found a broken window next to the apartment door and another upstairs. Police found a variety of electronic devices stacked next to the door and a man hiding under the pile of clothes. The 30-year-old was arrested on suspicion of burglary. However, he hasn't been charged yet.
TransCanada Corporation has resumed sending oil through the Keystone Pipeline after a week-long shutdown prompted by a leak and oil spill in southeastern South Dakota. The pipeline came back online yesterday, but with reduced pressure. The company says it's continuing cleanup and land restoration at the site of the spill, which TransCanada estimates was just under 17,000 gallons. The company says there is no significant environmental impact or threat to public safety.
Nebraska has one of the nation's lowest participation rates in a new federal program intended to provide school meals to children. A report by Food Research and Action Center found Nebraska is ranked second lowest among the nation in the number of eligible schools that are using the program. The Community Eligibility Provision Program reimburses high-poverty schools that agree to provide free lunches and breakfast to all students. The report says 9 of Nebraska's 112 eligible schools chose to participate last year. Each week, DCTV talks political issues with 2 students on opposing sides. The conversation on LGBT rights and marriage equality will continue when DCTV continues.
This week, DCTV is back to its Joy in the Conversation segment, where we ask 2 students of differing political views to debate hot issues for the current presidential race. This week, sophomore Anna Bauerle, Republican, and senior Joe Couch, Democrat, we'll discuss the issues of marriage equality and LGBT rights. Anna, we'll start with you for the first question. To start off, do you think that marriage equality should be legal in the United States? Why or why not?
To start off with, I am a Republican, but this issue is definitely one where I am a little bit more moderate. This also isn't as personal to me as some other issues, so just a fun fact. This question, I think it honestly really doesn't matter what I think because it is legal now because the Supreme Court last summer said it's unconstitutional to ban same-sex marriage, and so I think there are more important issues that we should be discussing in the political arena. It's still important to talk about this, but I think there are other issues that we should be dealing with besides this one.
I agree completely with Anna, but I think I'd even go a little further and say we're wasting our time talking about this, and the government shouldn't be involved in our lives like this at all. The government shouldn't be concerned with the legality of our families' spirituality or the sexes of them. All they should really be concerned with is the unions and the tax benefits for them. The sex of a couple shouldn't be a concern.
All right. Well, Joe, do you think that marriage equality should be a federal issue or a state issue? But you kind of said neither.
Yeah, I'd still say neither. I mean, I appreciate federalism, and I think the states should reserve a lot more power than they might have now. So I think there is some merit to the arguments they have now for this issue, but I still don't think it should be an issue, and all the states that are making it one shouldn't be.
And what about you, Anna?
I would agree with some of that. I think it should definitely be a states' right issue. At some point, though, we do have to, the federal government does need to be able to regulate when people's rights are being infringed. And so I think it's good that the federal government did address this, but I wish they would have done it in a way that left more up to the states. They pretty effectively shut off basically anything a state would want to do. So I would say the states in the end.
Okay. Back to you, Anna. Should preachers and other business owners have the right to refuse service to members of the LGBT community?
This is a really hot issue right now, and it's also a pretty delicate one. It's very situational, and it's hard to blanket statement an answer for this. But I would say for speaking to conservatives that do believe preachers and business owners should have the right to refuse service, I would ask them to flip the situation and ask themselves, if I were the one that was being refused service because of my religious beliefs, would I think it's religious discrimination? Because if your answer is yes, then you have a problem. And yeah.
I may surprise you a little bit with this, but I think, yes, a privately owned business should reserve the right to refuse service to anyone for any means. If you're allowed to do it for one reason, why wouldn't you be allowed to do it for another? But also, why would you want to do that for something such as a religious reason? If anything, it's just bad business. But if the business is getting any sort of federal subsidy, then they would obviously need to lose that, because the government can't be funding this sort of discrimination in any form, really.
Joe, should transgender citizens be allowed to use the same restroom they identify with?
Yeah. I mean, the real issue here, a lot of people think when a transgender person goes to use the restroom, I don't know the terminology at all. So let's see, is a transgender man a woman who turned into a female? Oh, God, goodness. All right, so when someone goes into a restroom that wasn't their original gender identity, but now is, they have gone through significant transformations to be the gender that they identify with. So if a transgender man goes into a man's restroom, it's not like a woman is going into a man's restroom at all. People, I think, are concerned about this because they haven't actually experienced it, and they think they're just going to go and see some lady hiking up a dress at the urinal, and that just doesn't happen.
Anna?
This is also a pretty big issue right now. A lot of situations where this is happening. I don't really know. I can see both sides of the issue. I can see why people are concerned with it, but I also see like why should it be an issue. I think because it's this big of an issue, we should just provide restrooms that are gender neutral. If it's that big of a deal, let's just give them their own. I don't know. Maybe that's also bad. I don't know. I don't know where I stand on this. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that one would be a little tricky, because
Yeah.
then you'd just have both men and women going into the same restroom.
Well, you could have like one for each, you know.
So a
Like a
transgender
transgender
man,
male,
transgender
transgender woman.
female?
Yeah.
Oh, I just feel like we don't need 4 restrooms somewhere. But also, like, do you know why we have single-serve restrooms that are identified for sex? Like, I don't get that. I don't get why I can't go into a restroom labeled female when there's only one toilet in there and there's a lock. Like, we're all humans. We can just...
Fair. All right. Anna, should LGBT citizens be allowed to have the same benefits of marital tax exemption, marital insurance coverage, and marital housing?
I think if we're going to let them get married, we should probably let them have all the benefits that marriage comes from, or else it's literally just a word. Yeah.
Yeah, if the government's going to offer a service to one person, they need to offer the same service to another person. And if they meet all the qualifications, such as being in a relationship, then they should receive the benefits of that service.
And back to you, Anna. Candidate Ted Cruz has called the federal ruling on marriage equality a fundamentally illegitimate, lawless, and unconstitutional, and that his presidency would not endorse it. Do you feel marriage equality is unconstitutional?
So I guess I don't know the context in which this was said, but I would hesitate to guess that he was talking about how the rule was agreed upon, because a lot of people have, I don't know, I'm not a constitutional scholar, so I don't really know this, but a lot of people were upset with the way that the outcome happened, that it was simply the Supreme Court that got to decide this for everyone, that it wasn't put up for a vote, and having an issue whether or not the problem or whether or not the action was in order, like parliamentarily, procedurally speaking, is a different question than asking if marriage equality is unconstitutional. And I don't know.
I think this might actually be one of the rare instances where I would give some credence to Ted Cruz, because the Constitution doesn't really have anything about marriage in it. So, I mean, he could even have a fairly legitimate case for saying that all marriage laws are unconstitutional. I think what Anna was getting at was that a lot of people are concerned that the Supreme Court is just making laws, as a lot of people put it. That's an instance where I would disagree, and the Supreme Court was ruling on those laws, saying that they are unconstitutional, saying that the United States Constitution doesn't allow for the sort of discrimination that these laws allow.
Justice Kennedy was the justice that wrote the majority opinion on the Supreme Court, and he actually said in his opinion that they ask for equal dignity in the eyes of the law, they being homosexuals, and the Constitution grants them that right. So the majority opinion of the Supreme Court did think it was a constitutional right. There was definitely some backlash in the dissenting opinions from the other 4 justices, but just the majority opinion did think it was constitutional. So.
Joe, candidate Bernie Sanders says he will veto any legislation that purports to protect religious liberty at the expense of others' rights. Do you think there is an issue with religious freedom on the side of those who are opposed to the LGBT community and their religious rights?
I think there are issues with religious freedom on more than just the LGBT community. There are a lot of bills right now going through Alabama, Mississippi, North Carolina, and Tennessee, actually, targeting LGBT communities. And they have this interesting wording that if these business owners can refuse service to them based on sincerely held religious beliefs. And I think that is a terrible way to write our laws, because it's so hard to define sincerely held religious beliefs. And if you're going to go ahead and use that definition, I mean, terrorists have sincerely held religious beliefs, and those are, I'm going to kill you if you don't agree with my religion. It's a very dangerous situation, and we're just lucky that the Christians in our government don't want to kill us.
I actually wholeheartedly agree with Joe on that. Even Christians argue among themselves what they believe in. Within one church, within one family, there might be religious differences, and there is absolutely no way we can monitor when someone is acting out of religious beliefs or pure spite. And it's I agree, very dangerous, tricky situation. And I would agree with Bernie Sanders on that statement.
So Joe, which candidate has a stance that supports your opinion, and what is it?
I actually really admire Rand Paul's position on marriage equality, and he's a libertarian, and he doesn't think the government should be involved at all in marriage. So leave marriage to the churches, leave it to whatever leave it to the faith institutions to deal with that. The government should not be concerned with faith institutions. They should be concerned with the tax benefits. So offer everyone the sort of civil union go with the same procedures that we always have. And there's no discrimination. If you want to go get married at your church, go for it. If your church doesn't allow gay marriage, I mean, why are you going to that church if you're gay? But that's up to you. It's your right as a free citizen.
Hannah?
This is not a very good debate because I agree with that. Although Rand Paul isn't a presidential candidate.
He should
Joe,
be.
He should be. Yeah, I think that's the best way we can handle this situation, is to take marriage out of government, take government out of marriage. Yeah.
All right. Well, as always, thank you guys so much for joining the conversation here on DCTV. And if you have any questions or debate issues you'd like to hear Anna and Joe discuss, please email Doane Student Media. And remember to read the Doane Owl and listen to KDNE for constant political coverage. So, Clayton, how are Doane athletics taking to the spring season?
Well, baseball is trying to come back from a little bit of a slump. Softball's super hot, 20-7 right now, and Doane track is Doane track. So we'll have those stories when we get right back on Doane Weekly. In Doane baseball, the Tigers split 2 games against Morningside. Doane is now 17-15 on the season and 2-6 in the GPAC. Morningside is 26-9. In the first game, Doane rallied from a 4-point deficit to take the game 5-4. Doane took an early 1-run lead in the second game until Morningside scored 3 runs in the fourth. Out hitting the team, Morningside finished with 14 hits, while Doane was limited to just 3. The team has struggled recently. They have, however, hovered around the bottom of the standings. Doane softball had better luck, winning 2 games Saturday by large margins against Mount Marty College. The wins gave the Tiger head coach 100 career wins as a coach at Doane. Congrats, Coach Littrell. In the first game, Doane had a 6-run start and added on 4 more runs to the next inning for a 10-0 lead. Doane would score 4 more runs before mercy rules ended the game in the 6th inning. The game's final was 14-6. Just when things seemed like they couldn't get better, the Tigers offense finished to demolish the Mount Marty Lancers with 17 hits, scoring 5 in the second, 3rd in the 5th innings. The Tigers are 20-7 on the season and 9-1 in the GPAC after Saturday's dominating wins. Men's tennis were upset by Morningside 5-4 Saturday, giving the Tigers their first conference losses. 5 of 9 matches went to tiebreakers in the close tournament. As for the women's tennis, a hard loss for the Tigers brought the team to 7 wins, 7 losses for a 500 and 2-5 on the season for in the GPAC. Doane was swept in doubles action, leading to Morningside's 8-1 win over the Tigers. An outdoor track at the Concordia Invitational on Saturday, the Tigers competed on a cool, windy Saturday. 5 Doane runners finished with automatic qualifying marks. 4 finished with provisional marks. 2 of the marks topped the NAIA, including Marissa DeWispler, who set a new Bulldog Stadium record for 3,000-meter steeplechase with a time of 10 minutes, 47.27 seconds. Tamisa Wallace also was at the top of the NAIA for triple jumps, leading 12.05 meters. Paige Hevert also won her event in the long jump. Last week, Andy Tatum was Men's Field Athlete of the Week, and Rachel Bromhall was Women's Track Athlete of the Week. Also, in Augusta, Danny Willett won the Masters, the 2016 Masters. Jordan Spieth had a quadruple bogey on hole number 12. I know what that feels like. As being a very recreational golfer, it can be tough out there. Anna, what's going on in entertainment?
A lot of stuff, so after the break, it'll come. In case you were off in the Wizarding World for a bit and just getting back to Muggle Land, a spin-off movie series to Harry Potter will soon hit theaters near you. Yes, that's right, the Wizarding World is coming back to you. In the newest trailer released yesterday, we see the main character played by actor Eddie Redmayne leave England and head to New York City. In the tease, the narrator exposes that this character, Newt Scamander, is expelled from Hogwarts for endangering human life with a beast. It also reveals that his expulsion is partially the reason Albus Dumbledore liked him. Oh, secrets, right? Wrong. J.K. Rowling took to Twitter to inform her readers what the tease meant. Find out yourself by looking at the preview and her Twitter. But really, I'm done with the Muggleland. Can I please just get my letter from Hogwarts already? You know, everyone just needs a cup of coffee every once in a while. Once a week, once a day, once an hour for me. Yes, everyone. Even an 11-year-old goat knows this truth, which is why Millie the goat wandered into a California Starbucks looking for her caffeine fix. Okay, so maybe she wasn't into the coffee, but she sure did love the cardboard boxes she found at 6 in the morning before the shop was even open. After filling her belly with all those cards, she was taken back to her home where she shares a yard with 6 chickens and 1 dog. No wonder she wandered off. I mean, every girl just needs her alone time with a latte. 2 votes are just 2 votes, right? They don't really matter in the long run, except when they are your own kids' votes. Yeah, Donald Trump's own daughter and son will not be voting for him in the upcoming primaries because they didn't register on time. Despite having quite some time to register, Ivanka and Eric just didn't quite understand the rules, Trump explains. The 2 would be eligible to vote for the New York primaries, which have rules that you have to sign up to vote nearly a year in advance. The cutoff date was October 9th, 2015, meaning they missed it by quite a bit. However, they have been very active in helping with their father's campaign, and they feel very guilty for not knowing when to register. I don't know if you should feel too guilty, little tykes. Really, you've done a great service to your state. And speaking of political whoopsies, it seems that Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker bit off more than he could chew when running for president. Walker was only in the race on the Republican side for 70 days, but he spent more than $6 million on his campaign during that time. He averaged a $90,000 a day budget, which it turns out he just couldn't afford. Now, in an email to his supporters, he's asking for donations to help him pay off his debt. In the email, he claims he likes to be thrifty, only shopping the sales rack and using coupons. But that hasn't saved him $6 million worth of debt, so now he's moved on to a new tactic. But hey, if you donate $45 to the cause, you get a free t-shirt out of the deal. Just don't ask for specific colors or sizes, because that's out of the budget. Still totally worth it, right? You want to know what grinds my gears today on DCTV? When my producer doesn't write in transitions. So, sorry about that. Anthony, what grinds your gears? And I mess up people's names.
I'm sorry, that was my bad, Anna. Sorry. Oh, okay.
Sorry. Just noticed this was an owl cup, so I had to. What grinds your gears, Cassandra?
Well, talking a little bit more seriously, what grinds my gears is the fact that Senate won't vote in the new justice just because Obama appointed him. There's literally no reason. They are blockading huge issues that could be resolved, and it's childish. It's simply childish. That's what grinds my gears.
What grinds my gears is I got engaged on Thursday, and whereas most people are, thank you. Whereas most people are very happy for me and my fiance, there are some people who seem to be pointing out how young we are. You know, I've been dating her for 3.5 years. I think that I know what this commitment means too. You know, seeing my parents who have been together for 20 plus years. So I don't think we're too young. I just think that we found love early.
Well, congratulations. We're all very happy for you here on DCTV. But that about does it here for Doane Weekly. Please tune in next week for more of your favorite newscasts.
Take care.